Hey there, folks. What I want you to do with me right now is to come along for the ride. Now, I'm going to be talking about something that I don't totally know all that much about. But what I'm trying to do is piece it together as best I can myself. Now, I never gave you an update as to how I did on my search for a rock. Remember I took you a week or so ago, week and a half ago, to that beautiful place in the woods, and I was looking for the work of human hands in that river. Well, to be honest with you, I was out there for hours, and it was so cold, and I froze myself half to death, and guess what I found? Almost nothing. But on another occasion, surprisingly, it was when I was shooting another one of the videos, I did find something, and I found it by accident, and I just looked down, and it was there. And in fact, as a matter of fact, it was with another bunch of rocks of a different color. And this particular rock stood out. I just spotted it immediately because it didn't seem to belong there with the other rocks. I said, whoa, what's that rock doing in with all those ones? And I picked it up and I said, wow, that's really interesting. It looks different. So I said, I think this is something. So I kept it and I put it in my pocket. So I'm going to show you the rock right now. And when you first see it, you might not think it's all that special, but I'm going to try to prove to you that it is. And I want you to come along for the ride. Okay, first of all, here is the rock. Okay, so first of all, it's a very beautiful rock. It's wonderful looking. I mean, it's got great coloring. And actually, one of the things that attracted me to it was this wonderful piece of fool's gold right there on the side. Look at that piece of fool's gold. It's massive. So actually, it's a good looking rock. There's no question about it. But not only that, first of all, look at that wonderful point on that rock. Isn't that a terrific point? It's really quite a nice point. Now, it's not super sharp, but it's quite sharp. Alrighty? So that's the first thing you notice. That's quite a nice point. Also, isn't it funny that the point on this rock, it's right there. It's hard to tell, actually. Well, you can sort of see it on camera, where that little white blob is. Sorry for the fingernails. I was working outside in the garden today, too. The point on it is directly in the center. Isn't that interesting? So this has a nice point on the top of it, and the point is directly in the center. The back of the rock is really quite flat, which is surprising, isn't it? Because the front of the rock is very craggly and very pointy, but the back is very flat. Okay, already I'm getting something. There's a fairly distinct point on that rock, and the point is in the center. And not only that, the top side of the rock seems very craggly, but the back side of the rock is far more flat. Let's continue. Do you notice also, I should do this, watch this, I'll see if I can film this too. It's going to be hard to film. I'll place it here. Okay, if I take a piece of paper with a 90-degree angle, I don't know if you can see this well on camera. See how there's a flat side on here, and that fits on the flat side quite well. Can you see that? There's like a flat surface on the side of that rock, and this fits there quite well. So the point on this face here is approximately, well, it's a bit more than 90 degrees, not very much. And if I turn it this way, there's another flat side. And if I place the paper here, the paper fits there actually rather well. That's that second flat side. And if I turn it again, there's a third flat side, right? So now we have the point in the center, plus we have three distinct flat side portions on that rock. Excuse me, I'm trying to watch my finger as I'm filming. It's not very good filming, is it? Okay. Here's the next thing. I have traced the rock. Now, I can see this quite easily with my own eye right here, but it's harder to see on camera, so I've traced it for you. Notice that the rock fits right on top of that tracing mark right now. Alrighty? And you can see, actually, because of the light right now, you can see a little bit of those faces. You can see that flat face on this side, can't you? Can you sort of see the flat face on this side too? And can you see that flat face over on this side? It's more in shadow because of the lighting in this room. Okay, I'm going to move this rock. Now, that's what the tracing of the bottom looks like. Now, remember there is that point, and the point is in the center. Okay. Now we see something which I believe is what they would call a smoking gun, which means this is just too freaky for coincidence. Do you notice what I see? Look, it's all about the angles. Look at this. If I go to the center of those dents, look what it is. It's almost perfectly split into 3 lobes with these dents opposite those flat faces. Now, you say to yourself, okay, well, that's not such a big thing, is it? Well, there's something very geometric about it, right? And there's something so geometric about it, I think it's put there for a reason. Now, what could the reason be? Well, I think maybe the reason is that if they wanted to use that rock as a tool, they might have wanted to lash it onto something, tie it onto something, so that it could be used for that purpose. Now, if you wanted to tie a rock onto a stick, wouldn't it be really, really handy to have little grooves to wrap the rope around and to lash the rope into? I think it would. So here's what I've done. I don't have any pieces of leather lying around the house. I mean, I would suppose if it was a native person, they would use a long piece of leather, or perhaps they would use a piece of vine. I have access to vines. There's some in the forest back there. I might even try that tomorrow if I can find me a nice piece of vine. But for tonight, I have got an old piece of shoelace. And what I've done is I've thought about it carefully, and I've said to myself, okay, if I really needed to do that, and if I were, a person in the forest doing this by myself, how would I tie this on? Oh, by the way, I should say too, when my wife wasn't looking, I went into her cooking utensils and I found a stick. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a stick, right? It's not a great stick, but I'm going to use that. It's a salad fork, an older one. So now I've got a piece of shoelace. I've tied that shoelace in a ring halfway along, and then the other little parts come down this way. My plan is to do this. I think if I drape the round part of this little shoelace over the top of that, I can get it to sit, right, on top of that, on top of the 3 faces. And then what's going to happen is the rest of the rope, I'm going to loop back and around the rock, and I'm going to loop it up into these 3 dents, right, that are already on the rock, and I'm going to hold that loop down very firmly. And once I've got that done, I'm going to tie it onto that stick. And I think, without too much difficulty, I will be able to make, I don't know, a hammer, a club, a mallet. I'm not totally sure what that would be. Could be a number of things, I suppose. But my next step is to give it a whirl. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to come back when it's done. Alrighty, there it is. So I've taken my time with that shoelace, and I've tried to figure out a way to get that rock to sit nicely and comfortably on this stick. This is the most sticky thing I could use, of course. And this is not a great job. I mean, if I looked at this, I could see a way to do it differently. Of course, if I was actually doing this in the woods or in the wild, I would groove my stick. Right, I would use a larger stick and cut a groove and flatten it and shape it so that it could accept that rock a bit better. But the point is, as I was putting it together, I said to myself, does it look as though the string really wants to go around that rock and sit on that rock properly? And it did. So, you know what? I think I've got something here, because I think my next step would be to actually try to use it for something. Now, what is it? I don't know. Could it be a weapon? Yep, it could be. I would not want to get hit by that. Could it be a tool used in food preparation? Absolutely, it could. I could mash up, fruits with that, or potatoes with that. I could mash up grains with that. There's a lot of things I could do with this rock. I could tenderize leather. I could tenderize meat. So I I'm willing to say, after all this work, that I think maybe this could be real. And if it isn't, it's an incredibly, incredibly well-shaped rock for just this purpose. Alrighty. So, I guess the last thing I will say is, perhaps we will never know. Again, the best thing to do right now for me, and I can't do it just now, unfortunately, but if I were to be able to take that to the museum and have it looked at and show them what I've done and the drawings I've made, etc., I wonder if there's an expert there that could tell me yes or no. Is that something? My gut feeling is it is. But anyway, I've had a wonderful time doing this anyhow, and I can feel myself learning step by step as I do. So I think I'm getting smarter along the way, even if that's not what I think it is. But anyway, I'm going to cross my fingers. Take care. Good night.